The Miami Dolphins got some great trade news on Minkah Fitzpatrick. I'm Nic Rohloff, Dolphins Today. Obviously, earlier in the week, Jordan Schultz reported that Miami, this new regime, Jeff Hafley, Jon-Eric Sullivan, are having trade discussions centered around Minkah Fitzpatrick as Miami looks to shed some salary, free up some cap space, but also move more into a new direction and acquire more draft capital. And based off what we have seen around the NFL in terms of the reaction to this news and report, the trade return for Miami in a Fitzpatrick deal could be much better than anticipated, which is why we're making this video. We're going to look at 5 trade ideas suggested by Bleacher Report. All of them I think Miami should potentially accept. Let's get into it on today's show. Before we get into the trade ideas from Bleacher Report, I do actually want to get your thoughts first. Should the Dolphins even trade Minkah Fitzpatrick? Type Y for yes or N for no. Now, if they do deal him away, I could see something coming to fruition here sooner rather than later. Why is that? Well, next week is NFL Combine Week, which means all 32 GMs, all 32 head coaches are going to be in the same area for a full week. Coaches and GMs should arrive around Sunday night, Monday morning maybe, and meet with prospects and talk with each other. And if a team is really adamant about wanting to add Minkah Fitzpatrick prior to free agency that begins on March 9th, something could materialize next week in Indianapolis. So be on the lookout for that. Now, earlier this week, when we reacted to the trade report from Jordan Schultz, I originally said that I think Minkah Fitzpatrick's trade value could be a 4th or 5th round pick, depending on what team wants to go out, how aggressive they might be trying to add Minkah, who is still playing at a Pro Bowl level. He was phenomenal for Miami in 2025, playing in the nickel, playing at free safety. He did it all for that Anthony Weaver defense. But the trade value might actually be higher for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Now let's look at some trade ideas and destinations. The Philadelphia Eagles were the first team mentioned by Bleacher Report. And I'll kind of talk about why each team might want to go out and grab Minkah in the trade market. And with Philly, it does make sense. They don't have a lot in this room. They have a couple free agents, Reed Blankenship and Marcus Epps. Though they could bring them back, but adding Minkah would certainly bolster this room, especially with Andrew Makuba and Sidney Brown being the only 2 players there, 2 guys relatively young. Philadelphia has Super Bowl aspirations next season, and Fitzpatrick would really solidify that back end of Philly's defense. The trade idea for Minkah and Philly is very simple. The Dolphins receive a 3rd round pick in 2026, so a full round better than what I would have expected Miami getting back in a Minkah deal earlier in this week when I said it was a 4th or 5th rounder. The Dolphins, ironically enough, actually already have the 3rd round pick from Philly. Remember, they acquired that in the Jalen Phillips trade back at the deadline, which is pick 87. So this pick would ultimately be a comp pick, assuming Philly gets a 3rd rounder for the loss of Milton Williams, which it sounds like they will be getting at some point. So the Dolphins might be able to add another 3rd round pick. It would maybe be their 4th 3rd round pick. It would be their 6th inside the top 100 potentially. Adding to your draft capital in that range would be massive. I mentioned it. Miami right now has 5 picks in the top 90. Now that comp pick could be anywhere between 98 and maybe 106, which wouldn't be in the top 100, but it would be your 6th in the first 2 days of the draft. And if you're able to add that, now I'm not saying it's on the table, but if you were, that would just be absolutely huge for this new regime that is trying to rebuild this roster, add a lot of young talent, add their guys that they believe in, that fit the culture, fit the mold. It would be huge if Miami could get that type of return. The second destination Bleacher Report mentioned was the Cincinnati Bengals, another team that I initially mentioned the other day that makes a lot of sense in my opinion. You look at the depth chart for Cincinnati going into the offseason, similar to Philadelphia, a ton of free agents. Geno Stone is a free agent. You got some depth pieces as free agents. So the only safety that they have under contract is Jordan Battle, a youngster who played at Alabama the last couple of years. So they need some help in that safety room. And they are looking to really add to that defense because that unit has held them back over the last 2 or 3 seasons as the Bengals have consistently missed the postseason for the past couple of years. Now, the trade idea from Bleacher Report isn't as appetizing, I will say, as the Philadelphia one. Yeah, the Dolphins are getting a 3rd-round pick this year, which would be relatively high because, remember, Cincinnati's picking 9th in the draft this year, or is it 10th? 10th, I think. They're picking 10th, I believe. They're actually one spot ahead of Miami. So it would be earlier in the 3rd round compared to the 3rd-round pick you're getting from Philadelphia in that predicted trade. But you also have to give up a 5th-round pick in 2027 to get it. So I'm not sure if that is the best plan of action for Miami. I'm not sure I would be willing to offer a 5th-round pick with Minkah, even though it's in 2027, to get a 3rd-rounder this year. That might not be the best plan of action for Miami, in my opinion. More trade ideas coming, but today's show is brought to you by Mars Menin. Fellas, is there a time where you feel like you're losing it? Same diet, same workouts, but you feel like you're moving through the mud. One day you're crushing it, next day you're wondering why it feels everything twice as hard? Well, what if I told you there's a way to get back to having stronger physical performance? Mars Men is designed to help free lock testosterone so your body can actually use it. No synthetics, no needles, just real ingredients that help optimize energy, focus, and strength. Supports healthy T levels, energy, and stamina. Comes in a real sleek design, really easy to digest, and I'm telling you, people love it. 91% of users report higher energy levels. Thousands of guys are feeling incredible results. Just check out the reviews on the website if you don't believe me to see for yourself. For a limited time, our listeners get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. It's a perfect way to kick off the new year strong. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts at checkout. After you purchase, this is important, they will ask where you heard about them. Please support our show here at Dolphins Today and tell them we sent you. The 3rd team listed as a Fitzpatrick destination, the Dallas Cowboys, who I said on Wednesday when the initial report came out was the most likely team to trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Why? Well, Jerry Jones, he loves acquiring a big-name guy on the trade market. We've seen it over the years of him owning Dallas. Plus, this back end needs additions. They've got some pending free agents, but let's just call a spade here, folks. The Cowboys' defense was one of the worst in the NFL last season. Their secondary was awful, and adding a player like Minkah would help them kind of course correct that defense and maybe help them make the postseason a year from now. In the Bleacher Report, Cowboys Minkah trade idea might be the best one here we talk about because they are getting, Miami that is, a 5th-round pick this season. So you would add a 2nd, 5th-round pick in April, but you would also get a 2027 3rd-round pick. If this is on the table, it is a no-brainer, an automatic accept. No need for negotiations. Jerry Jones says, we'll give you a 3rd next year and a 5th this year for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Done deal. Let's move. And yeah, you're not getting a 3rd-round pick this season, but you would next year in 2027, and you would be still adding a draft pick early-ish on day 3 this year. That would be an absolute awesome return for Minkah Fitzpatrick in the next couple of weeks if you ultimately trade him. Another team that we'll talk about, the Chicago Bears, one we mentioned on Wednesday's reaction video as well. We actually talked about Cincinnati, Dallas, and Chicago. We didn't talk about Philly, and we didn't talk about the last team. We'll get that here in 1 second. But the reason why, well, the Bears don't have anyone. Kevin Byard, free agent. Jaquan Brisker, free agent. Elijah Hicks, free agent. Jonathan Owens, free agent. So the Bears need to completely overhaul this safety room. Now, it's very possible they ultimately just re-sign Byard, Brisker, and maybe some others here. But they have no current safeties on their roster. So maybe Ryan Poles looks to swing big and add Minkah Fitzpatrick. Certainly a plausible idea here. Our Bears Now host, Harrison Graham, literally walked over to me on Wednesday and asked me what I thought a Bears-Dolphins trade would look like. Well, Bleacher Report has it very similar to the one with the Bengals earlier that we talked about in this video, where Miami gets a third-round pick this year and a day 3 pick in 2027, seventh rounder. And this time, instead of Miami offering a 5th-round pick in 2027, it's a 6th-round selection alongside Minkah to get that 3rd and 7th. This trade idea isn't the worst. Is there better out there? Yeah, I'd probably rather do Philadelphia's and certainly Dallas's, but this one is definitely better than the Cincinnati Bengals trade idea, if you're asking me. And if Minkah does get traded in the next month or so, we will have you covered. Subscribe, turn on notifications, so when breaking news drops, you don't miss it here at the channel. Now, the final team, which actually caught me a little off guard here initially, is the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I guess it should have made sense because I didn't realize their safety room a year ago, which was one of the best defenses in the entire NFL, it's not that good. Their starters, Andrew Wingard, Antonio Johnson, but Wingard's a free agent. And their depth, they have it, but they don't have a guy that can really lead the charge there. They had a great front seven, one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL, but they did lack a lot of talent and production in their secondary. Adding Minkah Fitzpatrick could elevate that defense and maybe elevate the Jaguar ceiling as a team as they overachieved in 2025. Trade idea from Bleacher Report, same trade idea essentially as the Bears one, but Miami gets a 2027 6th-round pick in return rather than a 7th, so you kind of swap 6th-round picks in 2027. You get Minkah to Jacksonville for a 3rd-rounder this year. And the reason why I made this video and the reason why I titled it, "This is Great Trade Rumors and News for Miami," is because there's a consensus here. Now, I don't know what NFL GMs believe. This is just Bleacher Report. But if Bleacher Report is confident enough to believe Miami is netting a 3rd-round pick in all 5 trade ideas for Minkah Fitzpatrick, that means, hey, maybe this is a real possibility. Because like I said off the bat, I originally thought it would be a 4th or 5th-round pick for Minkah because he is 30 years old. You'd have to extend him because he's going to look for a new contract and have long-term security. But if you could get a day 2 pick, whether it's in 2026 or 2027 for Minkah Fitzpatrick, oh my goodness, I would be singing the praises of Jon-Eric Sullivan. That'd be a home run trade and kickstart to this rebuild in Miami. And I want people to predict it for me before we round out today's show. Where does Minkah Fitzpatrick get traded to? Drop the landing spot for me down in the comments. Now, I do want to end the show by talking about where Miami's safety room would be if you traded Minkah Fitzpatrick. All you have is Dante Trader Jr., Omar Brown, and Jordan Colbert, but Colbert and Brown are on futures contracts. So if you traded Minkah, Dante Trader Jr., the 5th-round pick from a year ago, would be the only standard guaranteed NFL safety contract you have. What does that tell you? Oh boy, there's a lot of work to do at this position in the offseason, whether it be in free agency or the draft. Now, last year, we saw Chris Grier sign multiple one-year safeties in free agency, that being Iafatu Melifonwu and Ashton Davis. I really don't anticipate safety being a position Miami goes out and signs in free agency. It seems like a position that you could really address through the draft, and we've seen Green Bay and Jon-Eric Sullivan have success finding safeties in day 2 and day 3 of the NFL draft in the past. And if you look at the safeties in the 2026 NFL draft, in some of the top names in each kind of range, in round 1, Caleb Downs is the top guy, right? He could go in the top 10. If he's there at 11, I would have a hard time passing on him if I'm the Miami Dolphins. Now, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren out of Toledo would be a trade-down candidate. He's kind of projected to go right now in the 20s, maybe even early 2nd round as well. So that's a fringe round 1, round 2 guy. You move into the 2nd round where Miami could really target one. You think of Dylan Thieneman from Oregon. He's a stud. Some people believe he could move up into the late part of the 1st round as well. But A.J. Helsey from LSU, Kamari Ramsey from USC, all round 2 fringe guys. Wizaki Wheatley, Genesis Smith, Bud Clark, highlighting the round 3 type of safeties. And then on day 3, some of the top guys that go in round 4, round 5, Jalen Kilgore, Michael Taft, and Cole Wisniewski from Texas Tech. These are 11 names to keep your eye on as we inch closer to the draft in April. And with the NFL Combine next week, we will have reported formal meetings. Remember, you get 30 draft meetings. You only get 30 formal. That's why they call it a top 30 for a reason. There will be some leaked out next week during the NFL Combine, and I expect some safeties to be on that list. And that's why you got to be subscribed, because we will have a full breakdown of who Miami met with at the Combine. We'll have full Combine coverage. We got boots on the ground in Indianapolis, so make sure you subscribe because we'll have you covered with everything you need to know.